And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
It was so exciting to watch the vibrance, the youth, everything with it. It was a great feeling.
The leader of the free world in President Kennedy was a man who had very coolly weathered and carried the Western world through the most terrifying two possible moments in the Cold War, the Berlin Wall crisis, and then even more acute, the Cuban Missile Crisis.
It was a terrific time for me, and I think anyone of my generation. Here we were in the Capitol. Here we were with a sense of history.
Kennedy was moving the country in a new direction.
It was a time of optimism. Kennedy seemed like there was so much promise.
There was a sense of sort of national confidence, and I think increasing confidence in President Kennedy.
John Kennedy was one of the few people who filled a room when he entered it.
They're driving through the crowds, and it was this joyful, beautiful day, and then all of a sudden the cars sped up, and no one knew what was going on.
Kennedy had always said, and it was very well known by everybody, including the Secret Service, that Kennedy didn't want that bubble top up unless there was a weather situation. He didn't want to have a public event like a motorcade and then for people to see him under glass.
There was a bang, and we said, what was that? Was that a shot? Was that a backfire? And there was time for us to exchange. And then there were two shots close together. Bang, bang.
Two rifle shots. Something stung me in the face.
I was in the law library at Georgetown Law School, and somebody came running in.
About 50 press ran in, just like a herd, and about 5, and we thought, oh, finally, you know, here they are. Then they ran out.
The cashier was listening to the radio and started crying and said, the president's been shot.
Just as I walked into the restaurant, a waitress came up and she was crying and she screamed, they shot the president, the Connally too. And I immediately ran back outside.
My heart was just pounding. I got to our apartment, the door was locked, my wife had been working. She was on the night shift, and I pounded on the door. She came to the door, and I said, they've shot him.
She walked into the hospital at her husband's stretcher side, and a Dallas newsman, Mel Couch, said he was riding shortly behind the president in the parade. He said after the shots were fired, he happened to look up at about the 5th or 6th floor of the Texas Book Depository. He said he saw the rifle being...
I got to the hospital before the press buses, because they'd been all diverted into where the lunch was to be. And I went into the emergency room through the swing doors. Nobody stopped me. I saw Jackie Kennedy come out with a coffin, a big bronze coffin on wheels, with her hand kind of possessively on the coffin. Mac Kilduff, who was the deputy White House press secretary, said, President John F. Kennedy died today from a gunshot wound in the head. And Pierpont and I broke for the door and ran all the way around the outside perimeter to the hospital again.
As I started to leave the building, I noticed there in the little old lobby there was a payphone. And I picked it up and called my dad in Indiana, and I said, Dad, the president's just been killed here in Dallas.
What Johnson wanted was he wanted that picture of the swearing in beamed all over the world. And he wanted people to know, whether Cubans or Russians or whomever, friend and foe alike, that the orderly transfer of power was taking place immediately.
I know that the world shares the sorrow that Mrs. Kennedy and her family bear. I will do my best. That is all I can do.
I do remember seeing her through the windshield and the stricken look on her face. Yes, she had the red dress on and the pink dress. I didn't see blood on it from that angle, but the look on her face, I mean, it was terrible.
We all were in shock, and it was, it was really a blow. And those days, I guess you just kept it within and moved on.
We went to work trying to quickly get a one-page special out about the reaction. And we wrote it and got it out by that evening and circulated it on campus. But it was really a day that changed my life.
Friday was the day that the magazine always went to bed, and so we were in the throes of putting out the weekly magazine when this, horrific news came over.
When he was killed, I was still the director of the Peace Corps in Ethiopia and in Africa as the representative. And all over Africa, I heard reports. And in Ethiopia, I saw it in action. People from all walks of life were bringing to Peace Corps volunteers food and anything they thought could help them. And John Kennedy's picture was going up every day more and more after his death.
We were in Tokyo, Japan at that point. People, I think because we were Americans, and if they would see us, they would come up and share their emotions. Oh my goodness, I've never, just tears on the street, wherever you went.
The world changed that day.
That was just tragic because we admired the family very much, and it was just like losing a member of your family.
I was terribly upset. I could get upset now thinking about it. I went upstairs back to my office and I did something I don't think I'd ever done before except in a religious service. I actually went down on my knees and prayed. I was so upset, I began to cry.
Older people could burst out into tears immediately. I probably felt as strongly as many of them about the death of this young president, but couldn't do it. But the next morning when I woke up and began to cry.
And the sound of the bagpipes, I just suddenly was flooded with tears. I just burst into tears, and tears are running down my face.
Everyone was glued to the funeral. And then the day before when Jackie had gone up and kissed the casket, that was just heartbreaking.
Every time I come out on this balcony, I look down the street about 3 blocks, 2.5 blocks, and it's where my wife and I stood as the cortege came up Pennsylvania Avenue. Hundreds of thousands of people on the street, totally silent. You could hear the drums as the caisson left the White House. But you could also hear from several streets away, you could hear the click, click, click as the streetlights changed red to green. It was the eeriest thing. I've gone up and down that street for 50 years. I've never heard it so silent.